Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well, and it is the middle of the week, and I want to do a review on a new router. This is actually one I've heard about, but I've never had one, and I just actually purchased this one from somebody that got it, decided they wanted to go with a DeWalt rather than this one, and I offered to buy it from him. He gave me a screaming deal on it, so I bought it from him. It's brand new right out of the box. I think he only fired it up once or twice. So I bought it from him because I needed another router. Tried to make it an even dozen. Anyway, now I don't even know how many routers I got, probably more than that. But this is one I've always wanted to try, so I took the opportunity and I bought it. So I want to do a review on this. And I was really curious about it because this is 7 amp, which is the same amperage as the 611, the DeWalt DWP 611, which is my favorite router. So I'm going to go through a list. I've kind of done some research on it, kind of played with it a little bit. I'm going to go through a list of pros and cons. First of all, let's just get right into it. So this comes with a base plate. That is different. This is our base plate. It comes with a 3-hole base plate. Oh, this is the GKF125CE Bosch Colt. Made as a trim router, obviously. Made really to hold with one hand, but we retrofit them to carve signs with. So the one thing I liked about this base plate is it's a pretty big hole. This is actually the biggest hole that I've seen on a standard base plate. Now it is recessed, which leads me to believe that they make a template guide to fit this, but I'm sure it would have to be a special one because this hole is so big. I think the template guides that I use on my other routers, I don't think would work for this. In fact, I'm sure of it. So this has a special template guide. Did not come with this kit. This comes with an edge guide, which clips in there pretty hard. Let me get it out of here. Man, that thing is hard. Really pops in there. So that's an edge guide. I don't really use them, but if you do, hey, that's cool. This kind of clips that on there, little thing to screw the edge guide on to the housing. However, now it really is of no use to me because this, so I'm going to go through the pros here. So it's 7 amp, which I like. The other thing that I like, I like quite a bit about this thing. I'm going to plug it in, and you can see it's got LED lights on the bottom.
Turn it up a little bit. I think you can see better.
Well, I can take the housing off. Anyway, it's got LED lights built in here, which to me is not that big a deal, but it's cool. I know a lot of people really like the LED lights on the DWP 611. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know that I have any other routers that the LED lights come on and off as soon as you plug it in. Normally, you have to turn the router on, but these lights come in, turn on as soon as you plug it in, and I think they stay on as far as I can tell right now. Anyway, I'm going to unplug it because I'm going to do some other things here. So that's what I like. The other thing that I like is the window in front is really big. It comes almost halfway around, so it's really a big window in front, which I really like. I like that. I like the fact that if you use it as just a regular palm router without this, it has a really nice feel in your hand. It's got that rubber grip, so if you were using it for edging as a regular trim router, it feels really good in the hand, and not all trim routers do. In fact, the DWP 611, my favorite router, not really that comfortable, not near as comfortable. I think this is a little bit lighter than the DWP as well. The other thing, because of this big window, normally all of my trim routers, I have to, excuse me, I have to take the housing off in order to change the bit. But this has got so much room in here that you can change the bit without taking the housing off. That's an advantage because this housing doesn't come off that easy. I'll show you in a minute. But the fact that you can change the bit without taking the housing off. That's kind of cool. I like that. That's I can't do that on my 611, and most of them, this window is so narrow that you just don't give it enough swing with the wrench. This, by the way, takes a 17. It's the same size as a lot of trim routers. 611 is one of them. So I like that. I like the macro depth adjustment. So this thing has a dial on the side, and it's got 3 different settings. Right now it's in the total lock position. It won't move. But if you move it to all the way to the up position, you can see this little door is spring loaded. I don't know, are you on that? Can you see that?
Not up close.
Well, as long as you can see it, you probably can. This little door is spring loaded. That allows you to macro adjust the depth adjustment, which I really like. I really like that. So then we'll lock it down. Well, I'm going to bring that bit back up. We'll lock it down. Now the other thing that I've never seen before is this. The electrical cord. This is another thing that I like. The electrical cord is kind of on a ball pivot, which is really interesting. I've never seen that ever on a router, but that is really interesting. I think that would allow for more movement of the router without putting a undue strain on that electrical cord. But so that's really a kind of a cool design. Never seen that before. It is variable speed, which doesn't mean a lot to me. It is a variable speed, goes up to 6. Sounds basically, we'll go outside after we're done here. And then the other thing that I really like this toggle switch. It's unplugged. I really like this switch. In fact, I like this switch better than the 611 switch. I really like that switch. So that is, I is for off. Right? It is. Closed circuit. Anyway. So now, let me tell you the cons, what I don't like about it. I don't like the fact that the back side, this wasn't there. We had to cut this hole, but I have to do that on the 611 too. But we had to move this hole over to the side because of this mechanism. This is the micro adjustment. I'll get to that in a second. But this is the micro adjustment. Because of this mechanism in here, we couldn't drill a hole right directly opposite of the front window because this door and this mechanism was in the way. Not that big a deal. It still exits just fine. So that's not that big a deal. But it does have to be, for me, it had to be opened up on the back side. Not that big a deal. Now here's my biggest issue with this thing is the micro adjustment. So remember, it's in total lock, so it won't go anywhere. And then in the middle, this is where you're supposed to be able to adjust it with this wheel, the micro adjustment. And then the scale is over on this side. I know I'm all over the place. I'm hoping you're able to follow me, babe. But the micro adjustment, I don't like it. It's kind of hard to turn. And if anybody has, and I know there's a lot of people that follow us that may be elderly, you might have a little arthritis, or you may not have much strength in your hands, females or whatever. Not to be disparaging, there's plenty of strong females out there, before Vicky smacks me upside my head. Anywho, I really don't like the micro adjustment. I don't think that I would use that. I will just go ahead and switch it to the macro adjustment, and then I'll use my router bit depth gauge, and I'll adjust my depth with my router bit depth gauge. So that I really don't like. And this is just this in itself. This mechanism is a little tough to switch. I actually had my grandson out here with me earlier, and he couldn't move it, which means not that big a deal. And this thing is freshly oiled. I put oil all over this thing. I oiled the housing just to make sure that there wasn't something going on there. But this is It's not a deal breaker for me, but it might be for you if you like the micro adjustment, and you've got to be able to do that. For me, I really don't like this mechanism, even though I respect the engineering that came into play. It's kind of a cool engineering, but this wheel doesn't really work very easily. So that's the thing that I don't like. One of the other things that is a little bit difficult, so in order to get the housing off of the motor, you switch it all the way to the loose, and then it moves easily, and then this little deal is just, it catches in that, there's a little depression here. This is spring loaded. Let me see if I can show that. This is spring loaded, and that little deal rides in that groove. So unless you depress that, the housing won't come off. Not that big a deal. That really isn't that big a deal. But what I really it's somewhat cumbersome. Although I will say it's not. So what happens is there's a pin right here that rides in that groove. Been cutting with it, with sawdust with it, obviously. So it rides in that groove. So that lines up with that, and then you push this in. Now you're back in there. And again, we're on the complete loose mode. So to lock it down, you'd switch that. So it's not that bad. It's just, and to be honest, there are no. As far as I'm concerned, the depth adjustment on the 611, that wheel that turns, that the ring, there's no other router out there that compares to that depth adjustment. In my opinion, it is so easy, so simple. This is a lot of engineering went into this, and it's definitely usable. But probably I would make this a dedicated router with one router bit, so I wouldn't have to change it a lot. Although the cool thing is you can change the bit without taking the housing off, so that's a plus. So in essence, the stuff in here, that's the pros and cons. Actually, there's a lot more pros than there is cons. Now we'll go outside and we'll actually cut with it, and we'll see how that works. All right, so we are outside. We just brought this thing out. It's set at above 0 right now, but I'll set the depth here in a second. So I want to show you when I plug it in. Guess I had it on. Got that switch mixed up again. That's why. Oh, I can see that. Yeah, I can see the lights in the reflection. Anyway, all right, so that's why you always want to have your hand on your tool when you plug it in, just in case. That is a perfect example. All right, I am going to, now, I'm going to loosen it all the way up, and I'm going to use the macro adjustment and just set the depth at 1/4 of an inch using my router bit depth gauge. Yeah, pretty close. So now I will just tighten that thing up, except it doesn't. See, and the thing is too, see there's a depression in the housing that meshes with the threaded rod that's attached to this, and if that isn't exactly in the right spot to where it meshes together, kind of like a rack and pinion, so to speak, then you have to kind of mess with it a little bit to get it to, but it's not very much. It's still set pretty much at 1/4. Yeah, a little deeper than 1/4. All right, so let's fire this thing up and let's see how it runs. I'm going to turn it this way so you guys get the big window on your side, and I got the little window on my side. I'm not even going to put my cheaters on because I don't need to. All right, are we ready? Here we go. thing seems to have plenty of power. And I was listening to it earlier as compared to my 611. As a matter of fact, I'll do that for you guys too. So I'll just grab my 611, one of my 611s, plug it in, and let you guys hear the difference in the sound. It sounds pretty much, they're both rated at 7 amps, and it sounds pretty much the same. I will say though that another advantage is that the Bosch here has a slow start. It's got, well, a soft start. So let's start it up. So it kind of starts slow and then it ramps up, whereas the 611 it goes right off the bat. And it sounds like less RPMs. It sounds a little less RPMs. Let me see what this says as far as RPMs. RPMs 16 to 35. I don't think, what does this one say? This one says 16 to 27, that's why. This is only 27,000 RPMs. This is 35. That's why it sounds different, even though they're both rated at 7 amp. I didn't, honestly, this feels about the same amount of power as this, so I would put them in the same category. A lot more than, say, the Rigid R2401. What else do I have up there? The Bauer and the Makita are both at 6.5 amp, so those are both about the same. The other Bosch that I have, the PR20E, let me see what that thing is rated at amperage wise. So this is the other Bosch, but this is only 1 horsepower. This is 1.25 horses. This is only rated, I haven't memorized this one yet. 5.5 amps. This is only 5.5 amps, and this is 7 amps. So the 1 horsepower doesn't have near the power that this one does. So all in all, guys, there's some things that I don't like about it, but honestly, they're fairly minor. The biggest hiccup for me is this mechanism, but for my use, not that big a deal. To give you an idea, this, again, if you haven't seen this is the 611. That's one of the reasons I love the 611, because it is just so stinking easy to go on and off, and the depth adjustment is just the best. It's just the best. I love this thing. But I will say, this may be number 2, because the power seems about the same, and if you have a dedicated to where you don't have to change the bits and you don't have a lot of depth adjustment and stuff, not a bad router. 140 bucks. It's and this retails for about 140, which is about what the DeWalt goes for, I think. So all in all, it's I'd put it right close to what as the 611. So I think that's about it. I really like this switch. I like that better. I like the soft start. Anyway, guys, that's kind of my take on it. If you modify it and put a good base plate on it, whether you make it yourself or whether you get it from us, we've got the base plates for them. This can be a great little router for, I'm not sure about those lights staying all the time. I don't know why that makes me nervous. Anyway, I would definitely unplug it when I'm not using it. Anyway, guys, that's it. That's my take on this little router. I would give it 2 thumbs up or a 3 3/4. Something like that. The only thing I don't like is that mechanism, but other than that, it's pretty much a go. So that is it, guys. I hope this was helpful. If you guys are thinking about getting one of these and you have any questions that I can help you with, email me at eric@makeawoodsign.com. There's the website, and if you need supplies, you know where to go. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to subscribe and click that little bell icon, because we post videos every day of the week. And you guys, there's lots of stuff on there. I think we're way over 1,000 videos now on our channel, and you guys support us so much. We love you. Thank you so much. You guys have a great week, and you'll see a video from us tomorrow morning. Have a great one, guys. Bye-bye.